So we're playing against a 23-53, and I'm going to play this move pawn to e4. No, take notes, guys. No, at your levels, I think persons mostly play like e5, but nonetheless, here most times I always see c5. Like I think persons just want an imbalance in the position, but nonetheless, we're going to be going through the principles even at the top tier levels. Now, knight to c6, remember, it's simply development. Now, what you guys need to take away is the fact that in the opening, it doesn't matter if it's theory, if you're freestyling, or again, you're just like playing based off principles. What you guys need is simply a pawn in the center, at least one pawn, and then you start developing your minor pieces. This can't get any simpler, guys. Now, because I played e4, which basically allowed my pieces to get again to their best squares, especially activating my bishop. I also like to put my other pawn up the board, and this actually enables all my pieces to their best possible squares. So like my bishop can get in, my other bishop, my queen, everything is playing. So this is why it is recommended to play again with the center. You're getting free maneuvering for your pieces, and I'm simply developing. Now he's now trying to get his bishop along this diagonal. I always ask myself again, what is he threatening before I move? So I simply move my knight away. Now for more lower rated viewers, you guys need to understand why I moved my knight to b3. Now I could play knight f3. So if you're just starting out in terms of just like maybe a couple months of chess, like just simply don't blunder and get your pieces to like the best possible squares. Knight f3 is a fantastic move. I played knight to b3, and this is basically hinting that I'm going to be castling on the queen side. Now, because we're planning to castle opposite sides, like black is going to put his king on the king side, and I'm going to put my king on the queen side, it simply means that I'm going to be able to like launch my pawns up the board. Now, whenever you see your opponent starts to make moves like this, like a4, a5, what they're trying to do is activate their rooks. So I'm going to play this move pawn to a4, simply shutting that option down. Now it's going to be hard for this. Again, it's 5 points of material to get into the game. And now he simply castled his king. So I'm simply just getting my pieces out, guys. Now I'm waiting for him to play d6. And then I'll strike him with this move, pawn to g4. And this is what we call a pawn storm. So whenever you're planning, again, on castling opposite sides, this is something that you can take note of. So g4 now. And yes, at the higher levels, you have to kind of like mix it up a bit to like create some imbalances and just blow your opponents off the board. At the lower levels, you could simply just move your pieces to like natural squares and your opponents will blunder. But for this video, what we're going to be taking note of is how to actually attack when it's not so obvious. So we're gonna go now g5. So pawn, I'm always looking for my pawn breaks, guys. So the first step that you guys need to know whenever you are attacking is, does your opponent have the chance to break in the center? So here he just played this move bishop to e6. If you're just playing chess and you're like, he's doing his thing, let me try to again do mine and start pushing my pawns down the board, you could easily move from like just having an advantage to dead lost. This move bishop to e6 was threatening to play pawn to d5, breaking open the center, which is why I timely played this move pawn to g5, kicking this knight back so he doesn't have a chance to break. So whenever you're attacking on the side of the board, ensure that your opponent can't break in the center. That is literally one of the rules that you need when attacking. We're gonna now continue with pawn to f4, and I'm simply launching my pawns up the board. Now, pawn moves create a lot of weaknesses if you don't know what you're doing. Now, what I am actually using my pawns to do in this scenario is simply create weaknesses in my opponent's camp. The second thing is that he's not able to actually get into my half of the board simply because I use my pieces to control those squares. If you're pushing pawns and like your opponent's pieces are starting to slip through, let's say like I pushed this and then suddenly like the g4 square was weak, oops, and he like gets a piece over there, that's again dangerous. For now, it's just me gaining space. The difference between having space and overextending is simply asking yourself, can your opponent invade in your half of the board? So again, I'm looking to attack, but can he break in the center? This is literally all you have to ask yourself. If the answer is yes, you try to stop it. If the answer is no, you move on with your life. Can't get any simpler than this. So here I am thinking of playing h4. I'm wondering if he plays d5, if it's actually like a serious threat, because I can actually capture on b6. So he's not currently threatening to play d5, or that will actually hang a pawn. So I'm going to play pawn to h4. So again, if he plays d5, I will simply capture on, what's that, b6, and then capture on d5. And I would have had a completely solid or decent position. So h4 on the board. I have 5 minutes to his 7-minute plus. And he's considering how to invade. So remember, it's now the middle game, and persons normally ask me like, Raheem, what do you do in the middle game? No, in the middle game, I'm simply dividing the board in two halves. I'm like, you have this half, which is his, and this half, which is mine. Now, what you want is simply for your opponent to not pass that half. Now, is this guy 2353, or is his brother borrowing the account? Alright, so we 100% take here. So that's basically guaranteed for capturing. Now the second thing we need to ask ourselves now is this is more for like tournament play and stuff, but even though you have seen exactly what you're going to do, it's always good to look at the board with fresh eyes. This is a big thing that actually helps persons to avoid blunders. Help yourself to not blunder by always looking at the board with fresh eyes. I'm like, all right, I'm about to play pawn takes d5, and indeed that's a fork, but looking at the board with fresh eyes just to ensure that I'm not missing anything. So pawn takes d5, I'm expecting rook to d8, and we need a move in that position to actually stir up something to say that yes, I'm winning a piece. I'm not really seeing it, which is the problem. If pawn takes d5 just wins a piece, that would be so lovely. That's the only problem though. I'm not really seeing exactly how it's winning the piece right now. So I'm going to be taking with the knight instead. That's what I'm actually leaning towards. So knight takes, he might play bishop takes d5, pawn takes d5, and again, just a very simple and easy position to play on. So let's take with the knight. Pawn takes, again, I'm just not seeing how I'm winning the piece, so I might as well play knight takes d5. That's basically the end of my thought process. He could try to go for a draw with knight to d4 and play with opposite color bishops. It's gonna again be a little bit harder to convert like simple advantages into like concrete wins at the higher you go up, but nonetheless you have to take your chances. So now I have a pawn that I basically won by just pushing my pawn. Now this is the reason why persons at the again lower levels find it more difficult to do, because literally your king is in the center and you're like, what's next? How do I actually play chess or defend properly? So what I mostly recommend is try to actually become a complete chess player. So you want to actually learn how to play all 3 years of the game: the end game, the middle game, and the opening. You don't want to actually just have 1 year of the board where if somebody catches you there, you're just like totally again like gone. You want to be again a complete player. So I just played c3. This is doing two things. It's stopping anything from coming to d4, and it's also protecting my pawn on b2. I was expecting knight d4, but he played rook to d8 instead. So if he gives me the chance, I'll try my best to hang on to this pawn. No, the reason why you castle your king is for king safety plus activating your rook. My king isn't the safest, I can actually guarantee that. So I'm going to be trying to get this to again a better square. Maybe I could still consider castling on the queen side if he gives me the chance. If not, my king is going to have to just like be in the center and stay like a boss. I could look to double up, on the d file. This is also one thing I could actually take into consideration. Queen check after that is going to be like a little bit miserable, but he goes knight to b4, and I'll not even pretend as if I know what this is doing. This is just weird. I've never seen a more weird move in my life. I'm gonna. He wants like the f4 pawn and some stuff, but it looks a little bit too committal. So knight takes knight d4, and he's trying to win some pawns. Yeah, he's like playing this super risky. But let's take it like we take gifts. We take gifts, guys. No. King here, queen check, bishop f4, bishop f3, we win game. So this is another thing that I see happen a lot at even all levels, where persons basically just sacrifice a piece because they just have to sacrifice the piece. Like it's unprovoked, but they have to do it. If you're one of those guys, don't play chess like this. So I have basically gotten king safety achieved, plus a semi-safe king. So now, from me pushing pawns to actually being up a pawn to now up a whole piece. So he goes now e6. And what we need to do now is to consolidate. So when winning, we consolidate. So persons normally, what's the word I'm looking for? Tend to trade a lot of pieces. I'm not recommending that you do that. I would basically recommend that you trade your passive pieces and try to keep your active pieces on the board as much as possible. So here I will try to remove again his active piece from my side of the board with this move, queen to d2, and I might lose a pawn or two in the process, but nonetheless, active pieces is what we'll use to play chess. So I'm going to be swapping the queens, and I'm just going to be playing the position. So now I have roughly 2 minutes on the clock. He has roughly 4 minutes and 45 seconds. The position is going to play itself. I'm up a piece. So maybe for like the last half of the last few seconds of the video, I'll just like play instead of like speaking. Yes, if my time gets too low. If it goes down to like 45 seconds and I just have to just play moves, then I'll just like keep silent and just get the moves up the board. Well, I want you guys to actually take a look at the position and realize that I'm not really doing anything fancy. All I'm doing is trying to play as solid as possible when it comes on to defending. I got my pawns to up the board, and I told you guys at the higher levels are even not like just simple chess. If somebody's getting attacked, they're going to panic. So I want him to actually close up the center a bit. So I'm using a pawn, and let's just take here. So now this is what we call consolidating. So it's a case where my pieces, they're semi-optimally placed. I'm going to get my rooks now involved. I'm going to put like one rook on E, one rook on D or the C file, and just play. This is again super standard stuff. I'm not afraid to chuck pawns because activity is what I am looking for. I'm just mainly focused on activity, and everything else to basically come after. So knight to c4 doesn't look too bad. As a matter of fact, Actually looks good to play, but let's just keep it simple. Rook to d1, activity. See, I see how to actually do tactics, but I am bringing my pieces into the game. I'm like, all right, I could take on d5. I could play knight c4 after. It's just activity. 1 minute 34 seconds, but I learned this a little bit earlier on. Where, oh, he does that. I mean, b4 now just looks nice. All right. Basically earlier on that if your position is active enough, your opponents will basically just start giving you back the material, like just like panicking and chucking pieces down the board. Bishop back to, what's that, f8. So you basically backtrack the piece. And same thing, guys, I'm planning to get my pieces forward. It's like I can't even find a better way to explain this to you guys. Like, get the pieces forward, play good chess. If he goes queen to g7, I go queen d4. I'm just getting the pieces forward. Like, if you need a pen and paper to write this down, get pieces forward, play good chess, do it. I think like this actually looks very interesting, but I'm going to play rook to b1 just to hold on to that one for a sec. He might win back one pawn, but won't be too much. b6. You know what I'm thinking about? No, I think, okay, fine. b6. Nonetheless, knight back. I was planning to give this man this pawn from like ages ago, but he keeps not taking it. I simply want to just consolidate. That's all I am looking to do. Let's go here maybe. I'm gonna put like my knight on d4. Like, he's not giving me the chance to consolidate, guys. I just want to like lock the position down. And then my, yes, fine. Alright, everything is looking good and perfect now. Bishop to g, I just go rook here. And we play. It goes there. Here maybe. Just like win up exchange. This is gonna threaten like bishop to b5, but because my pieces are active, I actually have time to get away with this. If takes, I take. Yeah, and we're approaching the 45-second mark now, which is where I told you guys that I might just stop talking and just like really locking into playing these moves. So here we focus on just simply again consolidating. You want to control the active squares on the board. Yep. Let's just get this pawn down the board. I should have played rook to c. I got him a little bit too active there. Just a little bit too active. Let's go here. You should have at least taken that pawn on h4. At least tried, you know. Oh, and one more thing that you guys need to understand is that knights are excellent defenders of kings. So if you're like planning to defend a position, just ensure that you have like a knight around there, and it basically shuts down everything. Alright, my rook on e needs a better square. I'm looking to get this down to c7. And I think that, okay, just blundered. But that's basically natural. He's gonna panic. And yeah, he basically resigned now, and that's it. So if you want to play games like this, just remember, keep playing aggressive.